In August 2018, 27-year-old Meighan Cordie and her mother, Jennifer Weathers, attended a family friend's wedding in Yamhill County, Oregon. What started as a joyous evening of dancing and celebration ended in heartbreak. On the drive home that night, something unimaginable happened to Meighan. Something only 3 individuals might truly understand. One of them is no longer here to tell their side. Another claims Meighan simply left the car and vanished. And the third, a 3-year-old child secured in a car seat, was too young to comprehend or recount the events of that fateful night. Meighan's body was later found at the base of an embankment near a Dayton road, leaving behind a mystery filled with contradictions, unanswered questions, and deep frustration.
Hi, is this a number I call for a non-emergency?
This is the dispatch center non-emergency number. How can I help you?
I'm sorry. My daughter has been missing since last night, and I'm getting kind of worried because she's supposed to work in 10 minutes, and I haven't heard anything from her. We were at a wedding, and she was upset and got out of the car, and I haven't heard from her since, and I haven't been able to find her. I drove around for 2 hours this morning looking for where she got out of the car, and so I don't know if I should call 911.
Born in December 1990 to Jennifer Weathers and Meighan Cordie, a former Clackamas fire captain, Meighan grew up in Oregon alongside her younger brother, Jacob. Though details of her early life remain scarce, her world changed in 2015 when she became a mother to her daughter, Gia. Gia was the center of Meighan's universe, and the bond they shared was inseparable. Meighan's aunt, Tracy, often spoke of her niece's remarkable ability to bring joy to others. Meighan had a knack for making people smile, whether it meant cracking a silly joke or going out of her way to lift someone's spirits. Her vibrant personality and radiant smile left a lasting impression on everyone who knew her. Friends and family alike described Meighan as someone who could brighten even the darkest of days. On August 18, 2018, Meighan attended a wedding celebration at Heiser Farms, a scenic location nestled in rural Yamhill County, Oregon. She was accompanied by her mother, Jennifer, and her 3-year-old daughter, Gia. The picturesque farm, known for its pumpkin patch and charming atmosphere, seemed like the ideal backdrop for a day of love and happiness. But what began as a joyful occasion would soon spiral into a heartbreaking tragedy. The day prior to the wedding, tension arose between Meighan and Jennifer. They argued over the best way to get to the remote venue, with Jennifer suggesting that Meighan take her own car to ensure Gia could leave early if needed. Jennifer, however, ultimately took the driver's seat, a decision that would play a crucial role in the devastating events that followed. The wedding day began as a picture-perfect celebration. The couple exchanged vows against a scenic backdrop, and the reception that followed was filled with laughter, food, and an endless flow of drinks. Guests danced and toasted to love, but as the night wore on, the alcohol-fueled festivities began to unravel into something far darker. Meighan and her mother, Jennifer, stood out among the crowd, not for their joy, but for the simmering tension between them. What started as a minor disagreement escalated into a full-blown argument, drawing the attention of other guests. Jennifer, noticeably intoxicated, was seen swaying unsteadily. Witnesses later described her level of inebriation as severe, rating it between a 6 and 8 on a scale of 10, a concerning state for someone responsible for driving. By 10 p.m., the evening had become too much for 3-year-old Gia. Overwhelmed by the loud music, unfamiliar environment, and the late hour, the restless toddler was ready to go home. Meighan, likely exhausted herself and wanting to ease her daughter's discomfort, made the decision to leave. But what should have been a simple drive home marked the beginning of a tragic chain of events that would leave those closest to Meighan searching for answers that remain elusive to this day. Jennifer wasn't pleased about leaving the wedding early. Frustrated and upset, she reportedly snapped at Meighan, saying something like, "I told you this would happen," referencing her need to leave the celebration because of Gia. The tension was palpable as they got into the car, Jennifer behind the wheel, Meighan in the passenger seat, and 3-year-old Gia secured in her car seat in the back. But the argument didn't end there. The heated exchange continued as Jennifer drove away from the venue. It wasn't long before Jennifer pulled the car over. Meighan stepped out, her phone pinging at that location, a detail investigators would later piece together. The argument spilled onto the roadside, with voices raised and emotions running high. Eventually, Jennifer persuaded Meighan to get back in the car, though this time, Meighan chose to sit in the back seat next to Gia. As the car continued down the dark rural road, Meighan made a call to her boyfriend. On the other end of the line, he could hear the unmistakable sounds of the argument escalating between Meighan and her mother. Amid the shouting, Meighan reportedly told him that Jennifer was drunk. That call would be the last time her boyfriend would ever hear her voice, a chilling moment that marked the beginning of a mystery that remains unresolved to this day. Jennifer's version of what happened next is both perplexing and deeply unsettling. She told investigators that Meighan, still enraged, insisted on being let out of the car. Jennifer said she pulled over again, and Meighan stepped out, leaving behind both her shoes and her phone. From the driver's seat, Jennifer claimed she called out, urging Meighan to get back in, but Meighan ignored her. According to Jennifer, when she turned the car around moments later to look for her daughter, Meighan was nowhere to be found. Jennifer said she spent the next half hour driving up and down that stretch of road, desperately searching. But when Meighan didn't turn up, Jennifer assumed she must have either hitched a ride with someone or returned to the wedding venue on foot. Believing there wasn't much else she could do, Jennifer decided to go home, explaining that she needed to get 3-year-old Gia to bed. That night, Jennifer tucked her granddaughter in and went to sleep, unaware that Meighan would never walk through the door again. By the next morning, August 19th, an eerie silence hung over the house. Jennifer noticed immediately that Meighan hadn't come home, and her worry began to mount. But rather than calling 911 to report her daughter missing, Jennifer chose to contact the non-emergency line, a decision that raised questions and added another layer of uncertainty to the case. On the call, Jennifer's voice conveyed a mix of frustration and concern as she explained the situation to the operator. She recounted how she had spent 2 hours that morning driving up and down the same roads they had traveled the previous night, searching desperately for Meighan, but despite her efforts, there was no trace of her daughter. What stood out, however, was Jennifer's calm and composed tone. For someone whose child was missing, her demeanor seemed unusually measured, a detail that would catch the attention of investigators and raise doubts in the minds of many. As the hours turned into days and Meighan remained missing, the questions surrounding Jennifer's account only became more pressing.
Hi, is this a number I call for a non-emergency?
This is the dispatch center, non-emergency number. How can I help you?
I'm sorry. My daughter has been missing since last night, and I'm getting kind of worried because she's supposed to work in 10 minutes, and I haven't heard anything from her. We were at a wedding, and she was upset and got out of the car, and I haven't heard from her since, and I haven't been able to find her. I drove around for 2 hours this morning looking for where she got out of the car, and so I don't know if I should call 911 or if I have to wait a certain amount of time.
No, there's never a certain amount of time that you have to wait.
Okay.
Do you want to report her as missing?
Yeah, I think so.
Where was she missing from?
I've checked the hospitals and I've checked the jails, and she's not in either one of those. So the wedding was at Heiser Farm in Dayton, Oregon.
The call Jennifer made that morning has become a focal point of intense scrutiny. Every detail, her choice of words, the tone of her voice, has fueled speculation and debate. Throughout the conversation, Jennifer's calm demeanor stood out. Some might see it as a sign of composure under pressure, while others found it unsettling, even unnerving. People process stress differently, but her actions and tone raised more questions than they answered. One detail, in particular, struck many as peculiar. Jennifer mentioned that she had already contacted local jails and hospitals. If she truly believed her daughter could have been arrested or gravely injured, wouldn't her voice carry more urgency, more panic? And if those possibilities were ruled out, wouldn't her concern have intensified further? Instead, her calmness felt strangely disconnected from the gravity of the situation, leaving an air of ambiguity that only deepened the mystery surrounding Meighan's disappearance.
And what is your name?
My name is Jennifer Weathers.
And what is her name?
Meighan, M-E-I-G-H-A-N, Cordie, C-O-R-D-I-E.
You know what she was wearing?
She was wearing I want to say it was floral pantsuit. It was one piece, short sleeve, navy blue with flowers on it. And she doesn't have her phone. She didn't have her phone. She left it in my car. She didn't have her wallet. Everything was in my car.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have someone get in contact with you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Authorities acted swiftly when Meighan's disappearance was reported, recognizing the urgency of the situation. The details were alarming. A young woman stepping out of a car late at night on an unfamiliar, dark, rural road. It was a dangerous scenario that immediately raised fears of what might have happened to her. A public appeal for help went out, and the response was overwhelming. Meighan's photo circulated widely in the local community, and soon, around 300 volunteers and emergency workers were mobilized. They scoured the surrounding woods, rivers, and farmland near where Meighan was last seen. Despite their tireless efforts, no trace of her was found, adding to the growing sense of dread. To understand the gravity of Meighan's disappearance, it's important to picture the area. A quiet, rural landscape dotted with isolated roads and dense vegetation. Earlier that day, Meighan had stopped at a local store near the wedding venue where a family friend named Spencer worked. Spencer noticed her and complimented her blue floral jumpsuit. Meighan smiled warmly and said, "Thank you." It was a brief, ordinary moment, one that would later stand out as one of the final sightings of her before she vanished into the night.
She came in and she was in like a floral pantsuit, and I remembered it because we do have weddings down here, but it's not overly common to see a bunch of people dressed up, so I said, "Oh, that's really pretty." She said, "Thank you."
By the end of the first day, hope was fading, and heartbreak was setting in for Meighan's family and friends. Despite a massive search effort, there was still no sign of her. Every passing hour added to the mystery, deepening their fears. Authorities, aware that Jennifer Weathers was the last person to see Meighan, turned their attention back to her. But before questioning her further, they focused on her car, and what they found was deeply unsettling. Inside the vehicle, Meighan's shoes and phone remained in the front seat, just where she had been sitting when they left the wedding venue. The presence of her phone was particularly troubling. After all, who willingly leaves behind such a vital item? But what investigators uncovered next was even more alarming. In the front seat, they found a clump of blonde hair, with the roots still intact. This detail indicated the hair had been forcefully pulled out, not cut, a chilling sign that the argument Jennifer had described might have been far more intense than she admitted. As the investigation progressed, Jennifer was brought in for further questioning, this time connected to a polygraph machine. While lie detector tests are not admissible in court, they can often reveal inconsistencies or lead investigators to critical insights. The tension in the room was undeniable as Jennifer answered their pointed questions. With each passing moment, the mystery surrounding Meighan's disappearance seemed to grow darker, and the puzzle pieces only became more disturbing.
car.
Okay. And then it got heated in the car?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did it ever get physical in the car?
She pulled my hair.
Okay. How far from the venue were you, or was it still at the venue?
No, it was right before she got out of the car. We'd already started driving, and she was yelling at me. And she just yanked my head back. And I slammed on the brakes. And then I yelled at her, "What are you doing? Gia's in the car." And when she finally let go of my hair, I started slowing the car down, which is when she started opening the door and saying, "I'm going to get out." Oh, first she had called her boyfriend.
You hit her in the arm how many times?
Oh, I don't know. I just reached back until she let go of my hair.
Okay.
I mean, it had to have been her arm because she would have been like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm assuming it was her arm.
Cursing back and forth at one another and really getting ugly like that. I mean, you're saying that she's...
me? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she called him, you know, "I want you to come get me, I want you to come get me," and he must have said no. And then,
Whose phone did she call him with?
hers.
Okay.
And then,
And this is when she pulls your hair not too long after that?
yeah.
What predicated that?
Who knows?
Using derogatory terms towards one another? Would that be
No, I
a fair
don't call
assessment?
Meighan names, yeah.
Does she call you names?
Oh, of course. I mean, not of course, but yes, she does.
Okay.
Not like...
Why would Jennifer feel the need to paint Meighan as the antagonist in this situation? Her conflicting statements raised more questions than answers. In one moment, Jennifer insisted that Meighan never called her names, only to quickly contradict herself by admitting that Meighan had, in fact, used derogatory terms. This back and forth was strange, especially coming from a mother whose daughter had vanished under such troubling circumstances. Jennifer had already acknowledged the argument between them that night, yet she seemed intent on shifting the blame onto her missing daughter. While this might not have been so concerning on its own, it was her overall demeanor that caught the attention of many. Despite the grim reality of her daughter's disappearance, Jennifer remained oddly cheerful. Her upbeat attitude, in contrast to the seriousness of the situation, felt out of place. After all, her daughter was still missing, and yet, Jennifer seemed more focused on defending herself and subtly criticizing Meighan, leaving a sense of unease that lingered long after their conversation.
Trying to get her to let go of my hair. She finally lets go of my hair. I start slowing the car down. She's like, "I'm going to get out." And I'm like, "You're not getting out. You're not getting out of the car." And I was almost to a stop. And she started opening the door, which is why I was slowing down. And I was almost to a stop, and she just opened it and jumped out. So then I stopped the car and got out and walked around it, closed her door that she had jumped out of, and I was looking for her. I couldn't see her anywhere. I'm calling her name, and she's not answering me. I can't leave the car because Gia's in it. So I'm just calling her name, get back in the car, and I can't see her anywhere. So I got back in the car and turned it around because I figured with the direction she jumped out, she'd be heading the opposite way. So I got back in the car and turned around and tried to find her with the headlights. I had the windows rolled down, and I'm just calling her name, calling her name, calling her name. And she's just not answering. And I couldn't see anything.
How fast do you think you were going when she jumped out?
Oh, I mean, like, literally I was almost to a stop.
Okay. Like less than 5 miles per hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as she started saying she was going to get out and started messing with the door handle, I started coming to a stop. So I drove back and forth, I don't know, probably for about a half an hour, trying to find her. I called Burr at some point, but he didn't answer his phone. And then Gia was crying. Oh my God, I can't believe she was there for all of that. Oh my gosh.
Did you try and call her?
Try and call Meighan?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. No, I did not.
Why not?
I don't know. It didn't even occur to me to try and call her.
Okay.
I was more worried about Gia and getting Gia home. At that point, Meighan wasn't my focus, Gia was. So I just drove home and I took her upstairs and put her in bed.
Had Meighan done this kind of stuff in the past?
What kind of stuff?
Jump out of your car?
She'd never actually done it, but yeah, she's threatened to before.
Okay.
Gia and asked her what time she was going to be done with work, and she said 5:30, and I thought, you had told me 5 before, and she was like, yeah, I thought it was 5, but it was 5:30, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, because she does that a lot, like just doesn't know her schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what? I'm like, well, I just don't understand how you never know your schedule. Like, you're 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not know whether you get off at 5 or 5:30?
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up at about 5:30.
On Sunday?
On Sunday, because the sun was coming out, and I got up, and I got dressed, and grabbed Gia, and went out to look for Meighan.
You didn't call her first?
No. No, I had her phone. She had left her phone in the car.
When did you figure that out?
When I took Gia out of the back seat, I saw it on the floor.
After 4 days of tireless searching, authorities were left with no choice but to reluctantly call off the hunt for Meighan Cordie. Despite the relentless efforts, the area surrounding the spot where Jennifer claimed Meighan had exited the car revealed no trace of the missing woman. The search, which had spanned miles, turned up nothing. But the investigation into Meighan's disappearance was far from over. As the days wore on, suspicion began to shift toward Jennifer. Her story, once seemingly innocent, was starting to unravel. The lie detector test she underwent produced inconclusive results, raising even more doubts in the minds of investigators. It was clear now there were pieces to this puzzle that didn't quite fit. Then, just as the investigation seemed to be at a standstill, a breakthrough came. On August 23rd, the day after the search was officially called off, a chilling discovery would change everything. A group of joggers, enjoying a peaceful run along the quiet roads of Dayton, stumbled upon something that sent a chill down their spines. As they passed a steep embankment, one of them noticed something out of place down below. Upon closer inspection, they found Meighan Cordie, her lifeless body, lying at the bottom of the incline. Meighan's body was discovered at the bottom of a steep, rocky embankment, miles away from where Jennifer had claimed she had gotten out of the car. Search teams had combed the area, but Meighan was found a staggering 9 miles from the location Jennifer had described. This tragic and eerie discovery would bring a haunting new twist to an already heartbreaking case. Meighan's body was recovered from the scene and taken to the medical examiner's office, where an autopsy was performed. The results were chilling. Meighan had suffered severe injuries, including blunt force trauma to the head, leading to aortic separation, an injury so devastating that it would have caused immediate death. For weeks, authorities released little information, keeping the public on edge. But on September 27th, the truth began to emerge. In a tense press conference, District Attorney Brad Berry outlined the details from the autopsy. The medical examiner concluded that Meighan's injuries were inconsistent with being struck by a car. In fact, the lack of damage to her bare feet indicated that she hadn't walked far at all. And as the investigation deepened, it became clear that Jennifer's story was falling apart. She had failed a second polygraph test and abruptly stopped cooperating with authorities. One of the most heartbreaking revelations came when the medical examiner determined that Meighan likely exited the car while it was still moving at speeds over 5 miles per hour. The thought of her, perhaps terrified, making that fateful decision is almost too painful to imagine. Yet, despite these shocking findings, the death was ruled accidental. The district attorney announced that no criminal charges would be filed in relation to Meighan's tragic death. Investigators believed Jennifer had been driving in the wrong direction, possibly after missing a turn when Meighan either fell or jumped out of the moving vehicle. Meighan hit the ground with force before tumbling down the embankment, but there was more. Evidence suggested that Jennifer might have even sped up just before Meighan exited the car, an allegation that came from a chilling potential witness, little Gia. In the aftermath, Jennifer was charged with driving under the influence and reckless endangerment. Her trial in October was marked by a lack of crucial evidence, notably a missing breathalyzer test from that night. With only witness testimonies from those who had seen Jennifer at the wedding, Jennifer ultimately accepted a plea deal. She faced no charges for Meighan's death. The prosecutor and district attorney expressed their frustration, publicly acknowledging that Jennifer had misled the investigation. Jennifer served just 5 days in jail and was placed on 3 years of probation. It's a tragic end to a childhood filled with loss. Meighan's father, devastated by the senseless loss of his daughter, filed a lawsuit against Jennifer, seeking $500,000 for negligence. He also sued the wedding venue, accusing them of over-serving alcohol and allowing Jennifer to drive while intoxicated. But the case was dismissed after the plaintiff failed to respond to the defense's motions. In the end, the full truth of what happened to Meighan Cordie may never be known. With so many unanswered questions and Jennifer's refusal to offer any new account of that night, this case is left in the shadows, its sorrowful truth just out of reach.